The reviews are in, and the Paper Mario Thousand Year Door remake is looking absolutely incredible. Like, we are really dealing with something truly special here in terms of a remake. But for a Mario spin-off, this is doing really well. I mean, I'm not surprised, since it's Thousand Year Door after all. But it's really refreshing to see, like, a Mario spin-off do this well on Metacritic, like with reviewers and everything, since it's scored an 88, which is extremely good for like a Mario spin-off, since that's pretty close to the 90s. Really, the only Mario spin-offs that tend to get up in the 90s are Mario Kart, and of course outside of Mario spin-offs, Mainline Mario, and unless something really goes wrong with Mainline Mario, you'll always see them score in the 90s, but 88 is very good for a Mario RPG, especially since this is the highest score in 15 years, since Bowser's Inside Story scored a 90. So this is really good for Mario spin-offs in general, since they typically kind of score around the high 70s and low to mid 80s, like we've seen for like Mario Party, Mario vs. Donkey Kong, Mario Sports tends to be even lower, but that kind of has some justified reasons behind that. But this is really good. And the Mario RPG remake was an 84 or an 85 from what I remember, so this is a little higher. So this is really good. And what's even more surprising to me, like even though this is Thousand Year Door, and even though remakes tend to be an improvement over the originals, I'm actually a little surprised that this is actually higher than the original game, since this is 1 point higher, since like the original scored 87, so yeah, this is a little higher and everything. It was even higher earlier at 89, but there was like one mixed score that went in while I was recording like another take of this video and brought it down by 1 point. But this is still very good. It's still unusual to see a remake score as well, if not higher than the original. Like Superstar Saga, for example. The remake scored 81, while the original game scored a 90. I know the remake did have some like corners that were cut in terms of like sprites and things, and some people may argue that it might have been sanitized a little bit with the character designs and things, but gameplay-wise, I did think it was somewhat of an improvement over the original, I would say. And the art style also looked great in the remake as well. In another more recent example of a remake scoring lower than the original game is Mario vs. Donkey Kong. Since the original scored an 81, and the remake, which was mostly agreed upon to have like a better art style and a better kind of system with gameplay and everything, scored a 76, quite a bit lower. So I think this is actually huge to see that the Thousand Year Door is doing this well. And if any game, any remake of a game, were to score higher than the original, it would be Thousand Year Door. And of course it's Thousand Year Door. And as it stands, also kind of looking at Paper Mario in general, the remake is now the second highest scoring Paper Mario game, since the original Paper Mario 64 is in the 90s, which I guess kind of makes sense, since that was like completely new idea, and I feel like reviewers tend to prefer like completely new ideas over like retreads and expansions of certain ideas, even though most of the fans may prefer a certain game over... I know there's a lot of fans that prefer 64 over Thousand Year Door, but I feel like there's just a little bit of a difference in how like reviewers kind of perceive games and how fans like perceive games and everything. But this is significantly higher than the modern Paper Mario games, since Origami King was at 80, and Sticker Star and Color Splash were around like the 74 to 76 range. I would say that's pretty high for those games, but I don't know. But yeah, this remake is doing really well, and since the reviewers are giving it a higher score than I expected, I feel like the fans, and especially myself, are really gonna enjoy this. Like, this is really gonna become one of the best well, I mean, Thousand Year Door is already one of the best Mario games of all time. It is my personal favorite Mario game, tied with Odyssey, but I feel like more people, the younger generations, who didn't get a chance to play the original game, will definitely hold this as high of a regard as games like Super Mario Odyssey or Super Mario Bros. Wonder, and like more recent games like that. So I think it's great that this is doing really well with reviews. I was a bit concerned that it was going to score a little lower than the original. Like, my prediction for how this game was going to score was actually around like 85 to 86. I wasn't thinking it was going to score like significantly lower than the original, but I was thinking, like, since it's a remake, I was kind of thinking of the general trend of things. I was thinking probably around the mid-80s range, but I am pleasantly surprised about how this is reviewing. I mean, like, still, again, it's Thousand Year Door. I did expect this game to get better reviews than reviewers normally give games, but this is pretty great. I'm definitely pleasantly surprised by this. And yeah, I am just beyond excited about this remake. Like I said, I already mentioned that it's my favorite game of all time, but some of the reviewers have been saying some pretty interesting things about this remake that are making me even more excited about this. And they mentioned backtracking specifically, which is something that they seem to have improved quite a lot in this remake. In Chapter 4, in Chapter 5 specifically, they did add certain things to kind of improve traversal between, like, the areas and everything. Apparently, a pipe was added at Creepy Steeple, which I think is great. That is one thing that a lot of people have been wanting. Like, some kind of pipe that would take you back to the area around Twilight Town. So that's great that they're doing that. And they also add a spring on the area with the cliff at Keelhaul Key, so you'll really just have to walk between the two areas there, rather than pull out Yoshi every time and try to do that, like, tricky platforming section. Now you only have to do it once, which is great. And one other thing I saw was the fact that General White's mission was significantly improved as well, since the pipe in the fast travel system leads directly to Far Outpost. You don't have to walk all the way to Rogueport to get to the pipe system there. It's great that they'll just allow you to, like, go right into a pipe and then take one of the other pipes to complete the mission and everything. I just think that's a great system in general, and significantly is improving the one section of the game that even people who like Thousand Year Door had a problem with. So I think that is great news in general. And there are a couple other things I've seen. The one nitpick I did see from some reviewers is the fact that they didn't really fix the trouble system. Like, it's still, you can only take on one trouble at a time, and you have to cancel one to start a new one, which is a little disappointing. But I'm not too disappointed about it, because they are improving the backtracking and fast travel system, so I do think completing these troubles will be significantly better than doing it in the original, even though the system still is kind of annoying. The Ian Fumis character is really just there to help you out with troubles, which I guess is good for, like, newer players and everything, but I wish they would have allowed you to take on multiple troubles at once. But yeah, it's not too disappointing. That's really just a nitpick, if anything. And yeah, it just seems like with things like the new music, that seems to be one thing that a lot of people are praising. The art style and the improved visuals are another thing that definitely seems to be something that a lot of people have been praising here. And just, like, for people who weren't too familiar with the original system, for people kind of, like, either revisiting it or kind of playing it for the first time, I've seen a lot of people praising the battle system here, and just the overall mechanics that were in the original version of Thousand Year Door. So, I definitely have faith that they faithfully translated this system into the modern engine and worked everything out really well, so battling is just as fun and just as engaging as it was in the original version. But yeah, there just seems to be, like, nothing but compliments for this game. Like, a lot of the scores are actually perfect, like 10 out of 10s, the hundreds. Then there's quite a few that are in the 90s, like a lot of big names are in the 90s as well. Like IGN, Nintendo Life, GameSpot, different things like that. Like a lot of these reviewers are giving it really high scores. And it just seems like there's like a ton of scores that are like 9 out of 10, like around there, which is great. And there's only like a couple scores. There's only like two total scores out of the 60 plus scores so far that are below 80. And one is good with 75. And the other is mixed, that updated just a little bit ago from Eurogamer Portugal, which I think is a bit odd considering like how far it's like 15 points below the next lowest score, which is just kind of funny, I would say. Do not harass the person who wrote the review at all, but I just think it's kind of funny that it's a bit lower than the others. Yeah, you're gonna get some people who didn't enjoy the game. Like, I mean, it's like, it's not perfect, so there's gonna be some people who didn't enjoy it, which is absolutely fair, and I definitely respect their opinion. But yeah, anyways, thank you guys for watching this video. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe for more, and make sure to check out my Discord server and Twitter if you want to. Goodbye.